What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we dive into an Esper Control deck that I have thrown together here in MTG Arena. The reason why I went with an Esper Control deck is I'm trying to play the card Temporal Anchor, a card that was from Brothers War that at the beginning of our upkeep we have to scry 2, and then depending on what cards we put on the bottom of our library, we get to exile those cards with the Temporal Anchor, and then during our turn we can play cards exiled with Temporal Anchor, making it a pretty interesting card, I would say, that fits most control decks and most shells. And I didn't want to do the typical like Azorius or, is it control decks to play Temporal Anchor. I felt that maybe an Esper shell could do pretty good, as it does have some of the other best cards currently in standard, I would say, outside of maybe red. White does have access to things like Wedding Announcement. It also has access to things like Farewell. And then when it comes to removal, we also have an Esper removal spell that can't be countered, so definitely good against other, matchups where maybe our opponent's playing a little bit of counter magic, making us being able to destroy target island permanent, regardless of whatever it is, and our opponent can't really do anything about it other than possibly try to protect their creature overall. But nonetheless, this is definitely an interesting list. We do have, the typical cards you would see in a control deck outside of, the board wipe removal and some ways to produce, some ways to block some things. Shieldred makes an appearance. We have the counter magic. We have the removal in the 1 and 2 drop slot. We have the Bank Buster for a little bit of that early game card draw, and then possibly an attacker as the game goes on. And then we have the Fairy as being like our big top end card, I think, in the deck, just because him being a 5 mana for loyalty planeswalker that gates loyalty every time we draw a card, creates a 2/2 that we can attack with, and every time we draw a card, that 2/2 then goes up. And we have various ways to kind of draw additional cards built into some of our things. Like I said, Bank Buster is probably the key one. But other than that, we have things like Wedding Announcement. If we attack with 2 or more creatures, we can trigger a draw effect. Celestis is also a draw effect trigger every time it goes from day to night or night to day. Other than that, this is definitely a pretty interesting list. Let's just dive into some games, kind of see how we do. So our opponent goes first, and we're missing our black mana, which is interesting, but we do have the draw. We do play a decent amount of land, so there is a possibility by the time we need the black mana that we have an answer, but we don't have access to cut down, which is definitely interesting. So I do think in this position, we will take the mulligan. This hand's much better. We will have to put a card back. I think it's a temporal. Everything else is definitely good. So we're going to do that, and we'll say go. And it looks like our opponent's playing mono black, which could be a bit of a struggle to deal with. We could technically get rid of it immediately, but I don't think there's any need to because they can't flip it next turn. So we'll just play the Dismal Backwater and say go. Next turn we can cut down. We can wait until they try to trigger the flip and do it that way. They have multiple, so definitely a little bit of a struggle. And I think we pass because I do think they're going to try to look at our hand this turn. And we're not going to allow that, essentially. All right, so we are a little behind. We do have more cards in hand, but it's the question of, we're at 3. Do we allow them to look at our hand and possibly remove something, or do we keep something like Void Rent open and see if they do anything about it? I do think that's the play. We did miss a land, so that's unfortunate. And our opponent's going to do the same, and we'll just kill it again. And we'll auto-pay, we take 1. So very simple stuff. Our opponent has no board presence, and then I think this is where we kind of get things like Wedding Announcement out, get the board going. Our opponent's down a land, so we're at least ahead in board presence now because we do have Wedding Announcement. Liliana's fine.
Finished before brunch.
And they're now wondering if they should make a Sis card or if make a sacrifice. Okay.
One of your friends has to leave.
So there is a possibility they do have removal. Bank Buster's not a bad play because then we can start the card draw going. So I do think that's the play, and we say go. And we still have a 1/1. Puts pressure on Liliana next turn if they can't do anything about it. We can draw a card. So I would say this is a possibility that they do have, say, something like a Shieldred. And I do think something like Shieldred is probably better than Farewell, so we'll get rid of the Farewell. And they get rid of removal, so even if we played Shieldred, they probably remove it. And my assumption is here that they don't want to play it into like a make disappear kind of situation. And we'll go for Shieldred here, because that makes the most sense. We'll attack for 1, see if they remove it, because they probably don't want Shieldred to go to whatever it is, which is fine. And I think we just go ahead and play another Bank Buster and say go. And we get a 2-2 here. So definitely interested in what our opponent's trying to do. Concealing Curtains is fine. It's only a 0-4. They could go ahead and remove it. They can get rid of a Shieldred. They can get rid of whatever. We're not going to draw before they do this. And they're going to make us discard something here. Sure. They can make a sacrifice, which is not really, you know, it's okay, but it's not great. They can't really do anything about, sure. I think we draw first. Is always a good play. And then we can get rid of the Deluge.
You won't be outsmarting me.
So that's something we can recast from the graveyard. And it looks like our opponent's struggling with mana, which which is a little bit of a, you know, issue for them. We draw. We will probably crew the other Bank Buster. And we are going to... We'll go both at Liliana and see what they do. They could block the 5-5. They could block the 2-2. Which, you know, it's fine. I guess they want to try to get in. But we have like a face-up Urtai, so it's like kind of interested in what they do in this position, because we're just going to possibly counter whatever they do. Yeah, I guess we will auto-pay this. And we will counter-target spell. And we'll just kind of put the pressure on our opponent to get their land. They don't attack, which is good. We crew this one because that is the weakest of... That one doesn't have any counters on it, so there's like... not really an urge to really get rid of it. They're looking at this. We're going to hit for 9. They may have removal. We did see that they play Infernal Grasp. They could have other removal, but it looks like Infernal Grasp is the play instead of go for the throat, because I guess they're preparing for other matchups against maybe creatures like Bankbuster and stuff, and Infernal Grasp is better. That card's fine. They gain 3 life. And pass to attackers. They can't attack. We'll draw. That card would have been good, I think, the turn prior. And we'll create a 2-2.
I've got eyes everywhere.
I think we just attack here. See what they do. If they block, they get a 4-4. But we can still take care of it, so they don't do anything. We say go. And whatever we do here, we can crew Bankbuster, so it doesn't make attacks super great. They play Hero's Downfall, which is interesting. We'll crew in response. So we still have protection off Teferi. And we'll draw. Alright, we draw again. We gain a counter. We'll make another 2-2.
Who's that handsome devil?
We'll play this. And I think I just, you know, offer if they want to make the trade here. If they make the trade, then we'll just kill it, which is fine. They get a 4/4, which is, you know, we're in the driver's seat here, so we're definitely in a good spot. Sure, just a 3/2. Not really playing it for its blitz ability because I guess they don't want to do anything about it. They say go. They have a play. And I guess our opponent just feels like they're too far behind. I'm not sure. But we were pretty protected there with what we had on the battlefields. Next turn, this will be a 4/4. We can draw on our, you know, with the Fairy's ability, they both go up in loyalty. This comes a 5/5 on our next turn, essentially. We could then, you know, we're probably going to crack Bankbuster, so it's a 6/6, and we're attacking with 6/6 Vigilance into their face. We have open counter magic, though, you know, they could still technically pay the mana, but we could always sacrifice one of our extra pilot tokens. And we had an extra Teferi, so if we really just wanted to put the pressure on, we could do it that way as well. So overall, pretty good game for game one. Hey, if you're liking the deck, I have it linked down in the description below if you want to check it out. And if you're also liking the video, remember to hit that like button. Definitely helps out the channel. With that being said, let's get back into the next game. On the play, we have all our colors. We have stuff. I mean, Negate's not the greatest 2-drop we could have, but we definitely could ramp up pretty quickly. So I do think it's a keep. And we'll start with Tranquil Cove. Looks like we're playing Orzhov, so we'll just kind of show him blue-white. Maybe make him think about what we're playing. Sure, looks like Angels of some sort. We'll play Celestis. Alright, so definitely looks like we need to figure out what's going on here. I think we still play land, even though I'd love to keep a Ganjo, but we'll get rid of Yada. And then we'll kind of wait and see what our opponent does. I'm not really worried about the 3/2 just yet. Like, it's not super threatening. Our opponent's probably thinking Wanderer Emperor is possibly the play. Well, Urtai, take one. We'll just counter that so they don't gain the life or draw the card for card advantage. They still get a card out of it, which is, you know, always an issue. But making them play the removal is great. Yeah, we're missing an actual black source, so Angel Wrath to do 2 damage to our face. We're at 9. Teferi's not bad. We gain 2 life. And I think we force Knight, so we get to draw a card. We'll take that action. And I do think getting rid of Negate's probably the best here. I think keeping the extra shield just in case, since they do seem like they do play removal. Sure. We'll get rid of their biggest angel. So they do have a 4/3. They gain a life point. They lose a life for drawing that card. Take that action. Anchor's not great without having all our mana, so that's probably the one we want to get rid of. We'll draw for turn. Second black source. Can't really protect the Teferi here, so I do think it's just a pass again. We'll draw again. I think dumping to make disappear is probably the play. We're at 10. And they pay too much. They probably should have, just because we dumped to make disappear, they probably should have still kept one open. Because they can't pay with Gyada.
I am.
I think I need to draw a card. Like, as much as this is good, I just don't feel like it's going to do enough because we can't play another spell. But we'll go with this and kind of see what happens. They do have a lot in the air damage-wise.
No setbacks next time.
Also, I should be probably attacking with... I should have been attacking with the Shieldred. But they play 2 spells for us, which I think helps us, because this gets us 2 cards. We'll get rid of one of the Shieldreds, because we drew 2. We'll draw for turn. And I think we just attack him for 4. They'll probably block. Or they don't. Play the backwater. Gain a life. And I think we force... No, I don't think we do anything just yet. And we let this just naturally happen. I actually think the Sunset's probably better. And our opponent's actually in a position that they're kind of behind. Because they're just draining themselves slowly, and as much as they could put pressure on us in the air, they are only at 6. So, that is a thing. We'll play Cave, and then we'll play Sunset, and they have more creatures than we do. And then we'll get to draw a card, get 2 tokens. And I actually think I swing with just the 7/7 and see if they want to trade. And they don't, which is fine. And then we force night become day or day become night. Because I don't think we'll be able to play a second spell. We'll gain a life, draw a card. We'll discard the land. We don't need the land. And we'll end turn. And they're at 4. They're only at 4, and we have good position here. And we'll get rid of the Yada. Can't be countered, destroy a permanent. We'll get dealt 4. And now they don't have any sort of protection there. We're at 8. Do they have another Angel of Wrath? They do. Good game. It is a good game. And our opponent scoops, which is interesting, right? Because we're at 4. We're going to gain a life from... We're going to gain 2 life from drawing a card. Puts us up to 6. We're going to attack in... I would attack in with everything, right? We attack in for 12, 14. They probably block the 8/8 and take 6. And then they go down to 2. And they really can't draw a card. But they also would gain the 3 from the Archangel here. So they'd be up to 5. We would then draw a card as well. So it's definitely a very interesting game that I do think our opponent just didn't want to play out. And I think that they just assumed that we took over. Definitely interesting, I would say. And I was kind of curious what we were going to dig away for the island here. If we would have made it night or day. So definitely overall good, I guess, 3rd game, 4th game. I don't know how many games I've been on so far. If you're liking the content on the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It definitely helps out a lot. Also, if you want to go the extra mile, you can simply click the join button. You can join the channel and become a member for as little as $1. That will also help support the channel. Now back to the next game. So opponent goes first. We have a lot of tap mana. But we're on the draw, so I do think we keep because we have our colors. Mono, black. Interesting. But we do have, like, Cave of Kolios. Does seem like they're maybe a slow mono black deck. Or because we also have black mana, they're maybe like, I don't want to play my 3/2 or whatever. Alright, so we've got a Phyrexian here. Definitely something to, you know, have to figure out. I actually think we get Cave on, and then if they want to play slow, we'll have our day-night cycle kind of take over. Shieldred. Put an upkeep. We'll put a stop on our upkeep, of course. We'll destroy evil. The Shieldred. Resolve. We'll move the stop now. We're good. And draw. It's always that play that, you know, you see coming. We're at 18, they're at 23. They have 1 creature. They have 4 cards. We'd have 4 cards, so it'd be a wash. So we'll get the Bankbuster out. We're not behind, so I'm not worried about getting rid of the 3/3 just yet. They're probably gonna invoke Despair is my best guess here, right? Because they have 5 mana. It's definitely the 5 mana play in mono black. If, you know, Soul Transfer is the play. Interesting. Not the typical play I would see. And they're probably gonna try to resolve Shieldred here because I guess my assumption is that they think that's gonna be the play that helps them. We'll take 1. And we will Void Rend the Shieldred. So Shieldred's good. We'll draw. I think we Revelry. We'll get more creatures. We'll wash out on cards. We'll go back up to 16, and we get another creature. Oh, we have 1 creature. Never mind. We don't get the 2 creatures as well. And I think their hand's literally just full of removal, right? They're just removing Soul Transfers so they can play Soul Transfers. No blocks. We'll draw. And we'll say go. We'll get another counter. Our creatures are now much bigger. We pretty much counterbalance, and now they have to put a lot of removal into this. Sure. We'll discard our Bankbuster, which we still have one, so I'm fine with that. Yep, I get it. They definitely counteract each other. No attacks. End turn. We'll take that action. And that is exactly what we need here. We'll get rid of the Make Disappear. No attacks. We'll swing in, see what they want to do. I don't mind trading here, do some damage. Alright, our opponent is definitely locked in. On that, they really just take 1, so it's like a wash. But we'll wipe the board, and we will get rid of graveyards. Don't want to get rid of enchantments, don't want to get rid of artifacts, so all creatures, all artifacts. So now they can't get it back if they wanted to. Sure. You get your 2 cards. Yep. We'll draw again. Temporal Anchor is like really good. I wish I could draw in response so I don't have to discard. But we'll get rid of the Anchor because it's not going to help us in this position. We need like counter magic. Sure. So they're just going in, I guess. They're just going to try to dig as much as possible so they can find other stuff. And then we'll just Urtai their 4/4 away. Sure. Another Shield Raid. Alright. We sit mana open. 2 cards in hand. Teferi. Resolved pretty easily.
For the sake of the future, I will defend the past.
I will create a creature.
It's nice to see a familiar
And we'll
face.
swing for 4. And we'll gain 4 life and draw a card. And we're slowly ticking up. And we'll take that action. Removal's pretty good, but I think backup Teferi is better in case they have another spell here to remove Teferi, like another Invoke Despair. Though Invoke's not as strong as it is. Sure. We'll get rid of the pilot. That's fine. 24. Curtains. All right.
No matter the time or place, I'm ready to. I've got
Through.
eyes everywhere.
Attack for 4. And say go. They could flip over and want to kill Teferi that way. All that to gain 2 life. Creatures, graveyards. I have artifacts, so don't want to do that. And we're not gonna flip, okay. Sure. Okay. We're gonna make us discard a card.
This is my home, and I don't appreciate it when people touch my things.
Should have Liliana first. And now we have no hand, so
This isn't how things were supposed to go.
good for us. Sure. Take that action. Discard our land. We're gonna read ahead, search our library probably for a card, or put something from the graveyard onto the battlefield. It's in the graveyard. We'll see what they do here. They're going 1. All right, you gotta go for the throat. Gonna tie for 1. Full Memory Deluge. We get a Shieldred and a Cut Down. Cut Down. Lose 2 life. Search your card, lose 3 life, so you're down to 15. They're probably going to get Invoke, is my assumption here, right? If you were them, if you had more Invokes, you'd probably Invoke here to make me do that. Invoke Despair. Sure. Not the card I was assuming. We'll draw a card. Take that action. The fairy. We'll get rid of that. Play to fairy. We'll create a 2/2.
Don't feel bad when you lose. Nobody knows the past better than me.
No attacks. And turn. They'll probably get their own. I mean, we're definitely in this game. We definitely don't have. They don't have many options. They can get another one. I don't understand why they're probably taking so long. Because I mean, it's pretty obvious on what they should get. Unless they're thinking I should discard. They should discard it. They should make me discard a card. But I don't think that's the play. Like, Flesh Gorger is, like, obvious choice. Maybe they are deep in the tank, or they got disconnected. I'm not sure. So that one ended anticlimactically, but I do think our opponent has 2 great plays in this position if I was them, right? They have 3 cards in hand, so they're up on us there. They have 10 open mana right now where we only have the 1. So there's not many creatures in the graveyard. We have a Virus Beetle. We have another Flesh Gorger, which if they bring it back with the Gix, it is a 7/5. It's not the 3/3 version. In our graveyard, we do have an Urtai here, which is definitely an interesting play, I think, if they were to take that. Because if they take our Urtai out, they can then target Shieldred, which then kills Shieldred, and then makes our board very awkward to keep Teferi alive, and all we're left with is a 2/2. So that is definitely one of those things that I think probably was their play. The other thing too is they're going to gain 7 life regardless of how they do it. So I'm not sure as to why our opponent was just like, I'm good, or it's definitely one of those things that I do think we were behind based on the cruelty of Gix landed on the battlefield overall. So lucky we won that one, but definitely kind of interested in that. Unfortunately, our opponent lost to either a disconnect or they just got frustrated and just roped out. And we are back. So, I mean, overall, the games went well. Esper Control feels good, especially against some of the meta decks of the format. I do think the one downside to the deck is, you know, the whole idea of what I was trying to do was to resolve like a Temporal Anchor, but unfortunately the times I either had it or it was at top of my library, it just wasn't the most important card I needed in that particular game state. But I do think if you resolve this and you still have other things open, this is definitely a good card that's going to help us dig through our deck, find cards that could possibly answer maybe our opponent's thing. And I do think this idea here of you find answers that you can put into your hand, and then you put either find answers you can put into your hand, or you find answers that you put on the bottom of your library, and then they get exiled, so that gives them some sort of protection, so that your opponent can't make you discard them, which I do see to be good. But overall, you know, this card's pretty sweet. It is a legendary. It's one of those things I would say you're only playing like 2 copies, maybe 3 copies, but you really only can have one on the battlefield, so you don't want too many copies because it's awkward if you draw it. Multiple copies of it, because it's not unlike a creature. You can't like do anything with it and then sacrifice it and then get an untapped version of it, so it's not like it has any sort of activate ability like that. But still, nonetheless, this Esper Control deck definitely performed fairly well if you're someone who likes control and wants to play maybe a little bit more of a grindier game of Magic. I would say take this one for a spin, maybe make your own tweaks depending on how your playstyle is. But with that being said, if you like the video, hit that like button, definitely helps out a lot. If you're new here, you want to post new videos like this one here on the channel, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.